Most people think retirement is when your money stops growing. But what if $1 million could quietly turn into $5 million without risky bets? It sounds like a math error or a clickbait headline, but for many retirees, this is an accidental reality. We are taught to save, 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 and then, the moment we stop working, we're told to flip a switch and watch our account slowly dwindle to zero. We view retirement as a countdown clock, a slow bleed of capital until we reach the finish line. But this mindset is exactly why so many people miss out on the most explosive growth phase of their lives. Today, we are breaking down the mechanics of how a $1 million portfolio doesn't just sustain you, it potentially quintuples. This isn't about hitting a jackpot or finding the next viral stock. It's about understanding the physics of money once the pressure of active saving is removed. By the end of this video, you'll see why your retirement years might actually be your most profitable ones, and how you can position yourself to reach significant retirement wealth growth without the stress. There is a deeply rooted fear that haunts almost everyone approaching their 50s. It's the belief that once you retire, you must live off your money in a way that eventually exhausts it. We've been conditioned to think that the day you collect your last paycheck is the day you must de-risk completely. You move everything into safe assets, bury your head in the sand, and pray the market doesn't twitch. The fear of outliving your savings is real, and the fear of a market crash in your first year of retirement is enough to keep anyone awake at night. We are told to move into bonds, cash, and certificates of deposit, essentially putting our wealth into a defensive crouch. But here's the problem. The real danger isn't running out of money. The real danger is misunderstanding how money behaves in retirement. When you play it too safe, you actually invite the very risk you're trying to avoid. You invite the risk of your purchasing power being devoured by the slow, silent engine of inflation. The big misconception that keeps people from building true generational wealth is the idea that retirement equals zero growth. We divide our lives into two neat boxes: the accumulation phase, where you work and grow your money, and the distribution phase, where you stop working and spend your money. We assume that these two phases cannot happen at the same time. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how a portfolio functions. Just because you are taking a paycheck from your investments does not mean the rest of the money has stopped working. In fact, for a well-structured portfolio, the distribution phase can be just as lucrative as the accumulation phase. This is where compound interest in retirement becomes your most powerful ally. People assume that because they are no longer adding new money from a salary, the growth phase is over. In a moment, I'll show you exactly how that $1 million quietly snowballs without aggressive investing, simply because you've allowed the math to keep working in the background while you go about your life. The secret lies in the quiet power of time and modest growth. If you have $1 million and you manage a modest annual return of, let's say, 7%, that portfolio generates $70,000 in a single year. Now, if you are following a standard retirement withdrawal strategy and taking out 4%, which is $40,000, to live on, you aren't actually touching your principal. In fact, you still have $30,000 of growth left over. That $30,000 gets added back to the original million. Next year, you aren't earning 7% on a million. You're earning it on 1 million and 30,000. This is the definition of quiet growth. You don't need high-flying tech stocks or speculative crypto to make this work. You need a long retirement timeline, typically 25 to 35 years, and the discipline to let the market do its job. This isn't day trading. This isn't timing the market. This is slow, boring, and incredibly powerful math. Over a 30-year retirement, that tiny surplus, the gap between what your money earns and what you spend, compounds over and over again. This leads us to the withdrawal paradox. It is the counterintuitive reality that you can spend money every single month and still end up richer than when you started. Most people believe that if you start with a bucket of water and take a cup out every day, the bucket will eventually be empty. But a retirement portfolio isn't a stagnant bucket. It's more like a well that is being fed by an underground spring. As long as the spring, your investment returns, replenishes the well faster than you dip your cup in, the water level will rise. This happens because of partial withdrawals and portfolio recovery. During strong market years, your portfolio might grow by 15 or 20%. Even if you take out your living expenses, the remaining growth is so massive that it buffers you against the lean years. This is why the biggest growth often happens after retirement, not before. You have reached a critical mass where the sheer size of the principal produces more in growth than you could ever realistically contribute from a standard 9-to-5 salary. Inflation is the main reason individuals hoard cash. When egg or petrol prices rise, people think, I need to keep my money in the bank where it's safe. Cash is the only asset guaranteed to depreciate over 30 years. A well-diversified portfolio of global shares has traditionally surpassed inflation. When you buy stocks, you own companies that can raise prices to match inflation. Thus, investment growth is about protection, not greed or screen size. Growth is the only thing that maintains your lifestyle. Don't let your money grow and you'll get poorer every year. Investing keeps your $1 million strong, expanding into a greater sum that preserves your lifestyle for decades. This causes the accidental millionaire effect. Some retirees didn't plan to become ultra-wealthy. They didn't want a huge legacy or commercial empire. They lived a prudent, comfortable life, spent a reasonable amount of their savings, and let the market handle the rest. Because they didn't panic during market downturns or splurge during booms, their portfolios recovered and grew beyond their wildest hopes. These people sometimes die with 4 or 5 times more money than when they retired. The market rises more often than it falls, so longevity helped. Rather than beat the market, they stayed in the room to let the calculations conclude. Are you underestimating future wealth? Most are because they calculate their future using a straight-line decrease, rather of a compounding slope. This $5 million result? How? 4 pillars are evident. You need reasonable growth first, not 100%, but the general market's 6 to 8% average for the last century. Spending must be flexible. If the market tanks, you may tighten your belt instead of selling large portions of your holdings. Third, plan long-term. Last third displays the most dramatic benefits due to back-heavy compounding. Fourth, manage your emotions. This pillar is hardest to maintain. Recession news reduces balance checks. Avoid selling everything when your neighbor says the world is ending. The $5 million result is due to conduct, not brilliance. What could derail this outcome? Math is strong, but not invincible. Panic selling threatens retirement wealth growth most. If you sell equities when the market drops 20%, you locked in your loss and cannot participate in the recovery. The subsurface spring feeding your well is shut off. Overspending early in retirement is another problem. Sequence of returns risk. If you withdraw too much money during a market drop after retirement, your principal won't recover when the market recovers. 3 risks include over-conservatism. If you put everything in a savings account earning 1% while inflation is 3%, you are slowly vanishing. Finally, inadequate tax planning can drain your growth before it can compound. When a retirement plan fails, it's usually because the manager acted out of fear or short-term thinking. Our definition of retirement must change, not the end of growth. Not at the finish line do you stop and wait. Simply a new controlled compounding step. Your career involved engine building. In retirement, you're the engineer who keeps the engine going. Treating your $1 million like cash will make it shrink and disappear. If you approach it as a live, breathing organism that creates value, it will grow. Misunderstanding wealth kills it, not retirement. Allowing your money to work as intended can turn a pleasant retirement into a transformative legacy. As you plan your future, do you want to spend every dollar you've saved or protect your optionality and expand your wealth? Many people fear having too little, but few discuss the risk of having too much and not knowing how to manage it. Subscribe to stop worrying about math and start learning smarter retirement thinking. We are studying how the wealthy stay wealthy and how you may apply the same concepts to your own journey, no matter where you start. Your approach determines what happens with your $1 million.